So the reason that Stanley Kubrick had a Christmas tree in every scene is to symbolize the hoped-for resurrection or the manifestation on Earth of Lucifer, his eventual bright coming, that hope. And the Christmas tree, although it's called a Christmas tree, its origins stemmed from the cult of Cybele and Attis and the worship in Rome, starting at about 200 BC. It's not to be confused with the fact that people use Christmas trees and somehow related to the idea of the birth of Christ. It's not that at all. It's pointing to Lucifer. So now back to Helena. The red-haired child of the couple here is, in this movie, a symbol of the knowledge that is specifically contained and protected by those in the Red Lodge. And as this movie progresses, you'll see what I'm talking about, that Helena, whose name means bright, is an embodiment of that knowledge. So Helena's asking if she can watch the Nutcracker. The Nutcracker is another bit of information, if anybody's seen it. The story of the Nutcracker encompasses the story that's being played out in Eyes Wide Shut, in sort of a microcosm. Helena is also a character in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, and she demonstrates a great platonic sisterly devotion to her friend Hermia, which is a feminine form of Hermes. And the thing about Hermes is that he is another representation of Lucifer, embodiment, the keeper of all the knowledge gained at the garden. And with his wand, he touches the eyes of someone and they're closed, or if someone's blind, he touches the wand to them and they can suddenly see, or they get the knowledge. For anyone that hasn't seen the Nutcracker, it starts out with the family and their friends gathered around a big Christmas tree decorating it in preparation for a party. When it starts, the main character in the ballet, whose name is Clara, whose name means bright or clear, you get the point. That brightness is another symbol for the knowledge. So when the party starts, Clara's godfather, the magician Drosselmeyer, arrives, and he gives the children dolls as gifts, and then he makes them come alive and dance. Drosselmeyer's final gift for the children is a wooden nutcracker carved in the shape of a soldier. The other children ignore it, but Clara immediately takes a liking to it. Her brother Fritz breaks it, though. Later during the night, after everyone else has gone to bed, Clara returns to the parlor to check on the Nutcracker. The clock strikes midnight. She looks up to see Drosselmeyer perched atop the clock with the owl. And then suddenly mice begin to fill the room, and the Christmas tree grows to an enormous height along with the Nutcracker. Clara finds herself in the midst of a battle between an army of gingerbread soldiers and mice, led by their king. They begin to eat the soldiers. As the Mouse King advances on the wounded Nutcracker, Clara throws her slipper at him, distracting him long enough for the Nutcracker to stab him. The mice retreat, and the Nutcracker is transformed into a handsome prince. He leads Clara through the moonlit night into a pine forest, or grove, in which the snowflakes dance around them, beckoning them on to his kingdom. Clara and the prince travel to a beautiful land of sweets, ruled by a sugar plum fairy in the prince's place, until he returned. In the original libretto, the ballad's apotheosis represents a large beehive with flying bees closely guarding their riches. So what would be the Red Lodge Masonic interpretation of the Nutcracker? Well, if you assign identities to the characters involved, it makes a little bit more sense. First of all, the Christmas tree. The central theme at the beginning is, as I've described it before, a symbol of the God that's sleeping but waiting to resurrect in a glorified form. Drosselmeyer. Drossel means to choke. And Meyer is mayor, or ruler in a sense. He's the ruler of the situation, but he has choking control over it. He doesn't allow anything to occur unless he decides. He creates the Nutcracker. He gives Clara an opportunity to see it, and Clara has the will to pay attention to it. She's both Eve and part of the knowledge that gets disseminated to mankind through the act of Lucifer. And in the Nutcracker, Lucifer is the Nutcracker. He's injured, he's in a different form, a low form, and he's the instrument that can be used by people that pay attention to him. And Clara loves the Nutcracker. He can crack the nut, and if you think about what the nut is the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Through using him, through his efforts, through the interaction of the people with him, he cracks the nuts, so to speak, of knowledge. The Mouse King, again, is another form of God that the Freemasons would consider that's trying to stop the efforts of the Nutcracker getting this knowledge to mankind. Of course, the mice eat nuts, but through the steadfast attention that Clara gives and the help that she gives, the knowledge can ultimately be realized towards the end of achieving resurrection or immortality, and finally the Nutcracker can take on his true form, that of a beautiful prince, and then lead all mankind to paradise. And the beehive reference at the end of the Nutcracker is quite interesting. And I'll definitely be talking about the beehive later when I'm talking about the star of Iana or Ishtar, and also Artemis. So on to the party. So one of the first things you'll notice here is this 8-pointed star that's everywhere at this party. And it's known as the Star of Iana, or the Star of Ishtar. You'll also notice this starry background, this asterion here. And there's a lot to be said about that background. Of course, the Christmas tree, and the statue in the background here. You can't see really well at the beginning, but it comes into focus a little bit later in the scene. Here's a picture of a Greek coin showing the Minotaur on one side and the labyrinth with asterion, which Aster means star, in the center. And the idea is when Theseus went to the labyrinth, he took care of the Minotaur, and the Minotaur was replaced with the starry one. The Aster is the center of the Masonic pavement here, with the roses surrounding it. Here's an illustration from the Freemasons monitor showing the all-seeing eye. The caption underneath says, "The all-seeing eye, whom the sun and moon and stars obey, and under whose watchful care even the comets perform their stupendous revolutions, pervades the inmost recesses of the human heart, and will reward us according to our merits." The Tauroctony has the same configuration of sun, moon, and stars. A lot of the depictions will have Sol Invictus up here with Mithra looking towards him, and a line or ray going from him, his gaze towards Sol Invictus on this left side. And then you'll have the woman here, which is could be many different goddesses, but they're all the same basic goddess. It's Eve, and the moon's always on that side. And in the background are the stars, and you can see superimposed the Masonic monitor's explanation of the all-seeing eye, and the starry background is consistent with the Tauroctony. Here's that starry background again. There's the Asterion right behind the resurrected Lucifer. This guy's name is Victor Ziegler. Victor, he who conquers, and Ziegler means a bricklayer. This is the point at which Kubrick introduces the character that's going to play God. So here's more of the starry background here, giving you an idea of the realm that we're being shown here by Kubrick. You'll see here that the next character that's going to be introduced is Nick Nightingale, but I'm going to skip over him for now because he's important a little bit later in this series. This next bit is important here.
Why do you think Ziegler invites us to these things every year?
This is what you get for making house calls.
Yeah, the house call he makes here will be illustrated. So here's Nick Nightingale, and definitely we'll talk about him later. In this scene, Alice is waiting for William to return, and while she's waiting, she meets a guy here named Sandor Szavost, the Hungarian. Sandor is a Hungarian pronunciation of Alexander, or defender of man, and Szavost in Hungarian means creative, educated, or confident, and is quite peculiar the way he interacts with her, as you will see.
I think that's my glass.
Oh, I'm absolutely certain of it. My name is Sandor Szavost. I'm Hungarian.
Sandor does exactly what was described in Ovid's The Art of Love, Book 1. When she has drunk, be thou the first to seize the cup, and where her lips have touched, there press thine own and drink. Choose thou the dainties that her fingers have lightly touched, and as thou reachest for them, let thy hand softly encounter hers. Then immediately after he does this, he asks her if she knows anything about Ovid, the Latin poet.
My name is Alice Harper. I'm American.
Delighted to meet you, Alice. Did you ever read the Latin poet Ovid on the art of love?
Didn't he wind up all by himself, crying his eyes out, in some place with a very bad climate?
I think this is interesting because while Ovid was banished, it wasn't that bad a place. It was on the coast of the Black Sea, where present-day Romania is. He was banished to Tomis, which is in present-day Romania. It's on the Black Sea, and it was by Emperor Augustus in 8 A.D. It happens to be about the same latitude that Rome is. The climate isn't that bad. I don't know if he cried his eyes out. It seems to me that Alice is talking about someone else, and if I was guessing, I think Kubrick had the Titan Prometheus in mind, because Prometheus was banished from Olympus after giving fire to mankind. For this, he was chained at, of all places, the Caucasus, and the Caucasus means bright, shining, an area that's bright and shining. Every day, eagle, and actually it was Zeus in the form of an eagle, would come down and eat his liver, and at night his liver would grow back, and it would just keep reoccurring every day. Another thing about Ovid, if you've read The Art of Love, it's not that he's expressing ways to show love to women specifically. It's all about an hedonism. It's all about the pleasure of the person making the conquests. It's not about the idea of love at all. It's about gratification. Another thing I find peculiar about this scene is that Alice knows exactly who Ovid is right away, even though she seems somewhat unsophisticated after hearing that he's Hungarian.
My name is
So, who is Sandor really? Who's this guy who's dancing with Alice or Eve? I think this question he asks, or this statement he makes, gives us a clue.
Don't you think one of the charms of marriage is that it makes deception a necessity for both parties?
Deception for both parties. Well, after the fall, deception's a new concept for Adam and Eve. That's definitely true. I think interesting thing to watch too. I keep saying interesting too much. Fascinating thing to watch here is when he's talking about deception. Notice the 8-pointed stars in the background again.
Is that it makes deception a necessity for both parties?
It's defining who Alice is. Like she's framed again, a halo of 8-pointed star. The ancient Mesopotamian goddess Inanna was originally worshipped in Sumer and was later worshipped by the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians under the name Ishtar. She was known as the Queen of Heaven. She was associated with the planet Venus, and her most prominent symbols included the lion and the 8-pointed star. Her husband was the god Tammuz. The Babylonian myth represents Tammuz as a beautiful shepherd slain by a wild boar, the symbol of winter. Ishtar long mourned for him and descended into the underworld to deliver him from the embrace of death. This mourning for Tammuz was celebrated in Babylonia by women on the 2nd day of the 4th month, which thus acquired the name Tammuz. This custom of weeping for Tammuz is referred to in the Bible in Ezekiel 8:14.
May I ask why a beautiful woman who could have any man in this room wants to be married?
Why wouldn't she?
Is it as bad as that?
As good as that.
Yeah, why indeed? Sandor's playing God, so we have this multifaceted scene going on here, multi-layered, but they're all portraying the same thing, as you will see. At first, when I saw this movie, this exchange that Bill has with these two women didn't make sense to me. It was, of course, I was being naive. Kubrick puts an incredible amount of meaning in a very short period of time in his movies. Listen to their conversation here.
Do you know Nuala Windsor?
No, and it's very, very lovely to meet you. Now, how do you spell Nuala?
Nuala.
Quite a while I wondered what the significance of that was. If you look up Nualh, you're not going to find anything, but phonetically Nuala, Newalla, is the name of the Osage or Osage American Indian tribe. And in their language, Nuala means the giver of life. And Kubrick definitely knows about American Indians. If you're a good Skull and Bonesman, you know also about the American Indian. If you look at any of the group photographs over the last 100 years of the Skull and Bones Society, you'll see that there's a central prop. It's the actual remains of Geronimo, the Apache chief Geronimo. Now, the Apaches were important because they're descendant from the same group of American Indians that moved and established the civilization of the Aztecs. And the Masons know this. And if you go to Arizona, there's really huge Masonic influence there. I'm sure you've heard of Prescott, Arizona, Prescott Bush. Also, the name Osage means the people of the middle waters, so Nuala has a big water theme going on. Something about water. So why is that? You'll notice also, too, when she's spelling her name here for Tommy, he seems extremely uncomfortable.
Now, how do you spell Nuala?
Nuala.
And now when the red-haired woman introduces herself, you'll probably notice something very strange about what she tells Bill here.
You don't remember me, do you? You were very kind to me once.
Only once. That sounds like a terrible oversight.
I was doing a photo session in Rockefeller Plaza on a very windy day.
There's something in your eye.
Just about half of Fifth Avenue.
Right.
You were such a gentleman. You gave me your handkerchief, which was also clean.
Well, that is the kind of hero I can be sometimes.
So she was at Rockefeller Plaza, and he made it so that she could see better. He opened her eyes. Get it? That's the type of person he can be. Let's go see what's at Rockefeller Center. I'm sure there's something important there. And here we have Rockefeller Plaza. You have the Christmas tree that they put up every season, and a statue of Prometheus. Kubrick is absolutely clever. Continuing here, as these two women are leading Bill away here, they start talking about knowledge.
You always seem so knowledgeable.
They are very knowledgeable about all sorts.
Well, he's being honest describing himself here. You notice right after he says that they're knowledgeable about all sorts of things, the Christmas tree appears. Very artfully done.
I bet they worked so hard. Just think of all they miss.
You're probably right. Now,
So now here he's going to ask where they're taking him. And there's something very subtle that occurs that no one, to my knowledge, has ever recognized.
ladies, where exactly are we going? Exactly.
Where the rainbow is.
Look at his posture. And I'll talk about the rainbow here, too. But there's something quite peculiar about his posture. I'll show that again here. His hands on this side raised up a bit, and his arms being pulled down here. There's a high-level Masonic concept of the twins, or the duality of the knowledge of the fruit of the good and evil, that Lucifer or Hermes possesses. That's expressed in the Tauroctony, and the Masons express it with twins and parallel lines. And one of the most obvious or blatant expressions of it is the Baphomet. And Kubrick's used that before. In The Shining, you see Jack here, one arm up, one arm down. Here's the Baphomet, the classic picture of the Baphomet. And on his raised arm it says Salve, and on his lowered arm it says Coagule, to reveal or conceal. The knowledge, the light. It's that entity that power comes from. And it's up to that entity whom he wants to give the knowledge or restrain it from. It's all about that. The Shining has the same theme. I'll probably tackle The Shining here pretty soon. Here's another version of the Tauroctony scene, and this one includes the two sort of mini Mithra figures on either side. And what you'll see is one's always carrying a torch with the flames up, and the other carries one with the flames down. You'll notice it's in the same configuration as the Baphomet. The left side's up, right side's down. Up torch, down torch. I think it's Kot and Kotofates. Mithra's always looking to Sol Invictus. There's the mother goddess, the queen of the night. And here's Bill in that position. It's subtle, but it's definitely there.
Don't you want to go in the rainbow?
And this is another fascinating scene here where they're asking him about the rainbow. Now you have Nuala on this side, the water theme woman, this Eve woman, whose eyes were opened by Tom earlier, identified as Prometheus, by the dialogue. What could they possibly be talking about?
Well, now that depends where that is.
Well, let's find out.
Excuse me, lady.
So he's going to be called away here. The idea of the rainbow goes back to Genesis, and I'll talk about that. But first, there's some consistency, I was saying, with the scenarios that were being played out in this scene at the party. So you had Sandor and Alice dancing. Well, the next stage in that's going to be played out right here, and this is very important.
Sorry, Doctor. Sorry to interrupt. I wonder if you could come with me for a moment. Something for Mr. Ziegler.
Oh, fine. To be continued?
Just keep in mind the rainbow theme they were discussing here, and now to be continued. Well, I gotta say it though, it has something to do with the flood in Genesis and the changes that occurred after that. You'll notice the expression of both of these women. Nuala just seemed a bit amused, but the Eve woman looks rather angry. Alright, so there's the great starry background and the tree, and they're going to ascend the spiral staircase. But then there's this very ornate sculpture here. It's called the Love of Angels. This specific statue is located in a place called Luton Hoo in Berkshire County in the United Kingdom. It's at the bottom of the grand staircase. Here's a picture of it without the movie set accoutrements. The Love of Angels. So which angel is that that's loving the woman, I wonder? So they ascend the staircase. And here, it's an incredibly important scene too, because you'll see these individuals sitting at the foot of the statue. You will see them again. And right now, my interpretation of who they are would be that they are the personification of the Red Lodge. They're the ones in control of the knowledge on Earth, the specific elite. And I think that theory will be very obvious at the end of the movie. So Bill's been called up by Ziegler to his bathroom, and I would say God invited up Lucifer to visit the garden. Here we go. Come on in. Notice on the background, in the picture in the background here, the naked woman laying on the red couch. And you can't quite tell from this image, but the woman's pregnant. So Ziegler has a problem. The woman in his bathroom is injured, and it has something to do with what he was doing with her. He was using her. He was exploiting her. Of course, in the movie, he's up in the bathroom with a prostitute who's OD'd. It's important to see his expression here. Kubrick made sure to get the right expression. Let's see if I can get it. He's irritated. He definitely doesn't care about the woman at all. He's inconvenienced. So Bill asks her name, and look at the contempt on his face, on Ziegler's face, when he tells Bill her name. Yes, Ziegler has contempt for Mandy. Mandy, means deserving to be loved or simply worthy of love. And of course you'll see that Amanda's hair here is red, just like the picture in the bathroom of the woman on the red couch, just like Mandy is here. And this is an extremely important bit. Watch carefully what Tom, Bill, Lucifer does here.
Mandy? Can you hear me, Mandy? Can you hear me? Just move your head for me if you can hear me. Just move your head for me if you can hear me, Mandy. There you go. You can hear me. Can you open your eyes for me? Mandy, can you do that? Let me see you open your eyes. There you go. Come on. Come on, look at me. 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 Look at me, Mandy. Good. Good.
It's pretty obvious what's going on. If you're looking at this scene from the light of the garden, he tells Mandy to look at him 6 different times. I thought that was something to pay attention to. And I found this. A tarot card. Number 6. Look at that. There's Eve. It's really incredible, actually, when you think of how Kubrick put this together. Back to Eve and God. Now, the same scene is happening out, but in just a different time sequence.
I love Victor's articulation, don't you?
Yes, it's wonderful.
Have you ever seen his sculpture gallery?
No, I haven't.
He has a wonderful collection of Renaissance bronzes. Do you like the period?
I do.
I adore it. The sculpture gallery is upstairs. Would you like to see it? I can show it to you.
Okay, and Kubrick does a lot of this in this scene here, the party. He gets Eve to be perfectly framed inside this 8-pointed star, queen of the night, and God's trying to induce her to go up to see the bronzes, the Renaissance bronzes of mythological figures. Later in the movie you'll see that they actually do go to a place where there's Renaissance bronzes, but the difference here in this scene, even though Eve and God were in the garden and then Lucifer came and rescued Eve, Eve here has already been rescued. She is the queen of the night now. Now watch this scene again in the light of the garden scenario. Pay attention to what Lucifer tells Eve.
You are a very, very lucky girl.
Very lucky girl.
You know that?
You have God standing in the background. And then Lucifer tells Eve that she's going to need some rehab. They're going to have to work on this newfound condition that she's in.
You're gonna be okay this time.
It's going to be okay.
But you can't keep doing this. You understand? Yeah. You're gonna need some rehab. You know that, don't you?
Watch how artfully Kubrick gets the 8-pointed star to be a halo here for Alice, as Sandor is trying to convince her to see him again. And of course she can't, because she's already had her eyes opened. She's married. She's already married to Lucifer.
I must see you again.
That's impossible. Because I'm married.
She has the knowledge. Her eyes are open. They both know the secrets. She can't be with God anymore. She's married. And immediately in the next scene is a representation of the Love of Angels statue again. You have Lucifer and Eve. I'll end this portion of the video with the music that's playing while they're together.